Welcome to the Reese Report. I'm the mouth of the North, Andrew Reese. I am very happy to be back with Coach Tim Roache as my guest. We are doing another Raptors recap, but we're adding a little bit of wrinkles. We're going to talk about Wemby, who the Raptors came back from 22 down to beat this week. We're going to talk about Scotty and Pascal, and we're going to talk about the free throw shooting of the Raptors, which is atrocious, and it has continued from last year, despite DeMar's daughter being long gone and not around to bother them. We're going to talk about that. We won't do too much of a recap. Those who watched the Raptors this week saw what happened. They are now 3-4 on the season. They are the Jekyll and Hyde of the NBA, and they're a very frustrating team to watch. Um, this Philadelphia game, they're just not a good matchup against the 76ers. So we're not going to get into that. We've talked in length about the 76ers being a bad matchup, and that will continue as long as Maxey and Embiid are on the floor and getting the whistle. So that's not going to change. But we're going to talk a little bit about the San Antonio game and the massive comeback that happened there. The Raptors finally getting a little break in the schedule because they started the year 6 games and 9 nights, I believe. So that's tough. We'll also talk a little bit about Otto Porter, who has finally got into the team and has made a difference. So we'll talk a little bit about him. Coach, how are you doing? What's up? What's going on?
No, I'm doing good, man. I'm just excited for that big win over San Antonio. I did not expect it when they had
No.
35 points in the first half. And I think the end of the game, I don't have the specifics. I know we scored over 100 points because no one went to
Yeah.
overtime, but still, I think they basically had 70 something points in the second half.
Yeah.
So, a very good comeback win. They needed it. That Chicago game that they blew, that they should have won, the disastrous performance against Portland, and then you just had the two games against Philadelphia,
Yeah.
which, they are what they are at the end of the day. I know you said like they were kind of in a sense scheduled losses because they were on back to backs. Like they're
Correct.
they're tough. They're tough
Yeah.
games to get for any team. So
Yeah.
it's a big win. They needed it because it's been a little rough to start the year.
Yeah, I mean the Bucks win was great, the most complete performance they've had all year, but is not something I expected to continue, and it did not. This Jekyll and Hyde team continues. You're either seeing the worst offense you've ever seen in your life, or you're seeing a team making every shot. And I don't know what they are yet. We go from Portland, which was a horrific performance, to the Milwaukee game. Then we go back to Philadelphia, which is a bad matchup. We have the horrible first half against San Antonio, then the comeback. Like no one knows what this team is yet, and that's why they're 3-4. So we're gonna try to decipher what they are, and that's why I brought Coach on the show because I'm as confused as anyone right now. So we'll see if
And
we can try to
I
make
don't
sense of it.
I don't think Darko knows what this team is, and that's kind of
No,
some of the issues that
no.
are going on as well.
Yeah, we'll get into Darko's rotations. It looks like he's trying to figure it out, and he's still not there yet. But he found something in the San Antonio game that worked, and that led the comeback. But we'll get into that. Let's talk about Scotty Barnes. Coach, we talked in length all year long about how this is the most important season of Scotty's career. Van Vliet is gone, Nick Nurse is gone. Scotty made it very clear there were issues with both. It feels like the shackles have been taken off, and he is just playing with a freedom I have not seen from a third year player in a long time. He's not afraid to shoot the basketball. He's not afraid to dunk on people. He's blocking shots. He's stealing the ball. He's doing everything. I guess my question is why and how has this happened so quickly?
I think Scotty's been given the freedom in Darko's offense that he probably never had in Nurse's offense for sure. I think they're just putting him in spots also to have that freedom, and that's going to help for a young player like him when you have the support of the head coach to go out there and play with a sense of freedom, to play with not to be scared to make mistakes as a lot of young players do. We can think of a couple players even on this team who have historically had trouble. Like when they make mistakes, you just see them turn their head a little bit to look at the bench. They, oh, am I coming off now? But I'm so impressed with Scotty. I knew there were. I had a sense there would be a developmental jump this year for him because Fred's gone. Fred
Yeah,
had to leave for this to happen. And
Yes.
I would hear some people say, well, no, he has to go and take it. I don't know if that was the case for him to do, because if Fred comes back, I don't know if you see this from him. Fred
No.
had to go. You have to
Yes.
see what him and Pascal can do together. Because if Scotty continues to play this way, Pascal starts to play better, you're going to have a two-headed monster out there, two-way wing players who can dominate on the floor. And that's going to
Mhm.
be a huge win for this team. But just in terms of Scotty, 23 points. I'm rounding up here. 23, 10, 6. He's shooting 42% from the three-point line. I mean, this guy, and I don't have, sorry, I'm just looking at here, 2 blocks.
1 steal, 2 blocks. Yep.
I mean, the free throw percentage is a little rough, but it's rough for the
Yes.
whole team pretty
Yes.
much. But
Yes.
this guy's playing like an all-star right now, and he's
Yep.
developing before our eyes. This is wonderful to see. The first 7 games of the season, like you said, it's been a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde. It's been more Hyde, I kind of
Yes.
think, many degrees.
Yes.
But certainly his performance has been Dr. Jekyll. It's really, really good to see.
Well, that leads us to why this team is 3-4 and the Hyde part of this team. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this first, coach, and then I'll ask you. Pascal Siakam. I like Pascal Siakam. I think he's done a lot of good for this team. He's been a very good player for a long time. He has struggled mightily to start the season, and I'm trying to be nice. He's been bad. 15.4 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, way below his norms, playing decent perimeter defense, only shooting 41% from the field and 33% from three. The free throw shooting continues to be bad. Coach, he's struggling with confidence right now. Outside of what Darko's doing with the offense, and what I noticed in the Spurs game is Scotty is at the top of the key, and he has carte blanche to do what he wants in that spot. What I did not expect was Dennis Schroeder to also be at the top of the key. I thought Pascal would be there, but instead it's Schroeder, and Schroeder's taking advantage of those possessions when he's open or driving and getting 20 and 10 a game for most of the year, which is great. But that leaves Pascal and OG shooting threes. That's not Pascal's game. Now, I will say this, a little bit of this is on Pascal. His confidence is really low. He had a couple of chances in that Spurs game early, one-on-one, driving downhill, and he turned it over off his leg. He lost the handle on one. He was 2 for 12 in that game. His confidence is at an all-time low. How much of this is Pascal and how much of this is Darko with this horrendous start to the season for Siakam?
I think it's a 70-30. I think it's 70% the coaching staff and 30% Siakam. I think the coaching staff put this in place to a degree. What they have is they'll have Schroeder and Pirtle do a high screen and roll a lot. They do it a lot. They have
Yes.
Siakam set up in the corner to space
Yeah.
the floor. Now, watching Pascal Siakam, do you think that's the best place for him to go for him to succeed?
No.
He's not
No.
Grady Dick. He's not Clay
No.
Thompson. No,
Correct.
this guy is someone you can operate in the high post, in the low post, take you off the dribble. Just for a couple of stats here, he's getting less touches this season than Taylor Horton Tucker and Austin Reeves.
Oh my God.
Are any of these guys in the top three? Or Austin Reeves maybe on the Lakers' third option? I don't think
Yeah.
THT's a top 2 or 3 option on Utah, and he has a
No.
lower usage rate than Oscar Thompson, Bobby Portis, and Malachi Branham.
Yeah. That's not
That
good.
spells that's no, that's yeah, it's very, very troubling right now.
Yeah.
So some of this is Siakam though, because I remember in the Spurs game, he had a not a break, kind of a break. We had a one-on-one in transition with the guy, and he just fell down in the middle
Yep.
of the key, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think this is this new role that they kind of have him in a floor spacer. But there are times throughout this season so far. Remember the game against Chicago? I know Beyond and Hopeful and I talked about this. They were having Pascal set up on the low block. DeRozan was guarding him. Pascal was scoring. Did they go back to it? Nope.
No.
Didn't go back to it at all. They were still running the Schroeder, Pirtle, high post hub stuff. And I'm just
Yep.
like, I don't know what this is right now. I don't quite understand when you have a guy getting you 22 to 24 points per game over the last 3, 4 seasons, basically since the championship. And they've managed to have him score right now 8 to 10 points less than what he typically is averaging.
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder moving forward if this continues to be a trend, and it could be. Darko has his system,
Yep.
and every coach does. But at the same time, you have to play to your personnel that you have. He doesn't
Yeah.
have Golden State or Sacramento. So this split action offense works for them. Absolutely. Work for our
Sure.
team. You know, we have a
Yeah.
lot of we have a lot of guys, quite frankly, who aren't really known to be perimeter oriented. Schroeder's been really good this year, but a lot of Pascal's touches are now going to Dennis Schroeder. A lot
That's
of
right.
Pascal's touches are now going to Pirtle. A lot of Pascal's touches before he got hurt were going to Precious Achua. That's
Yes.
where the usage. That's why his usage rate is down. It's not so much Scotty. Scotty's getting his right.
Yeah.
OG's basically. I don't have OG's numbers, but to me, just by eye test, he's getting the looks that he had last year, more or less.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Pascal and Gary Trent is another one. Like these guys historically can put points up.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they were your two leading scorers, Pascal and Gary Trent. How does that
Mhm.
happen now that they're basically shooting the way
Obsolete.
they are?
Yeah.
Obsolete. Yeah. So look, this is a mixture of I would say it's more so how he's being utilized in his offense, and I think that's impacting his confidence. So that's why
Yes.
we're seeing him in the offense now struggling, trying to find his way. He's not a guy though I worry about unless they really try to keep the offense and not make any adjustments to help him out. Because
Hmm.
I have no worries when he was struggling before. I would say people, this guy's he's got great work ethic, bounce back, he'll be okay. I couldn't say that about some of the other guys because they weren't established enough, but he was at the time. I still think you can have this two-headed monster with Siakam and Barnes, and I say that in the basketball awesome way for people watching
Yeah.
at home. Um, Two-way wings are hard to come by in the
Yeah.
league. Yes,
Yeah.
the Clippers have Kawhi and Paul George, but also they've been hurt and they're getting towards they're a little long in the tooth now in the NBA world. You got Siakam and Scotty right now. Maximize it. I hope the
Yeah.
coaching staff does so because they could be a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams if they do so.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the way they're setting up. I never thought I would see the day that Pascal took 8 and 6 threes in a game, but we
Yep.
saw that. Um, he seems completely lost in this offense. And when I say that, he's floating around looking for open threes. Like he's not even trying to do back cuts. He's not even trying to get in the post because the offense is not set up where he can be a post player and use his skills in the post. It's about having Scotty at the top of the lane and passing the ball around the perimeter. That's their offense. So even in the comeback, their comeback happened because they got some offensive rebounds and Scotty was making remarkable threes. That was the comeback. It had nothing to do with inside out or them doing anything creative. They were passing to the outside and Scotty was just shooting the ball every chance he got and he made a bunch of threes. And then the defense was good on the other end. And they were grabbing all the rebounds. I don't know. I'm having my doubts if they can fix this now, coach. Like I know it's 7 games, but like I have not seen anything that other than maybe the Chicago game for a short period of time where they have gone to him and said, "Okay, we need to get you involved and Scotty's going to help you get involved." Scotty's numbers are great, but he's kind of gotten them on his own because of the way he's been set up at the top of the key. And then Schroeder is the beneficiary of him getting doubled because he's wide open on the other side. But that leaves Pascal in no man's land. That's okay for OG because he has no game other than shooting threes from the corner. It's not okay for Pascal. And then when you have the small lineup, Scotty is supposed to be the center in that lineup, but he ends up playing on the outside. So you have Pascal and OG wandering around on the inside, but they're never seeing the ball in that situation. Scotty's going to drive it or Scotty's going to shoot it. Same goes for Dennis. So I don't know how they fix it if the offense continues to be run like this.
Yeah. See, yeah, I have no idea because, and I credit Dennis Schroeder. He's played really well
Absolutely.
for a mid-level exception, and you're getting like 16 and 10, and I
Yeah.
don't know what he shooted, somewhere between 40 and 50% from
Yeah.
three. Like
Yeah.
some of the decision making I do question once in a while, but I mean, I can't really complain about the what he's been doing with the team so far.
Yeah.
But you know, you're 3-4. That's your record. You're one of the worst offenses in the league. I kind of wonder if there's a correlation going on right now between your terrible offense and Pascal Siakam and Gary Trent.
Yeah.
I wonder if you got those guys going if the offense
Yeah.
goes up. If we get a
Yeah.
little bit better in the half court. Half court offense is really bad.
It is.
And in that Spurs game in the second half, I didn't see Pirtle being used as much of an offensive hub in the high post. Did you?
Nope. I did not. They went
So,
small.
and someone got them out and say, okay, let's try this a different way. What a
Yeah.
coincidence. And it worked.
Yeah.
They moved Pirtle from the high post to basically the dunker spot. And
Correct.
he feasted. He went on his own 6 or 8-0 run in the
Yep.
third quarter, which helped propel the comeback.
Yes.
And once they went away from that, it worked. Just like Beyond has said before the season even started, when they were talking about Precious as this high post hub and Pirtle as this high post hub, you know, I'm a Precious fan. I love what he can do defensively.
Yeah.
And but even I'm like, are you putting that guy in a place to succeed? Every player has their strengths and their weaknesses. To
Yeah.
me, I don't know if you're putting him in a place to succeed by putting him in that high post hub.
Yeah. I mean, Schroeder's been great. What I don't get is why don't they use Pascal as the picker? I mean, it's not going to kill anyone if he's the picker, and he's more dangerous than Pirtle as the picker because if they go off of him, then Scotty can lay it off to him, and he's got a great mid range game. We have not seen Pascal take any mid ranges at all this year. His mid range game has disappeared. So why not use him as the hub, and then Scotty can either drive off of him or if they come down to guard Scotty, that leaves Pascal open for his mid range. I don't understand why that can't work.
Use him, yeah, like use him and Schroeder in a pick and roll or pick and
Right.
pop. Siakam's going to have a smaller guard on him after that, or he can pick a pop, and like you said, he can stretch the floor. He's actually shooting. The numbers I get it are a little deceiving, but he had that good Milwaukee game where he shot the lights out, and
Yeah.
he got this little MVP award, just like Scotty got in the Spurs game.
Yeah.
But they have to figure this out
Yeah.
if they want to be that 46-48 win team. That's This is a must thing to do. If not,
Yeah.
they're going to be what the Vegas had them at 36 wins or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Because as great as Scotty has been, all the credit to him, Pascal was looking for that for 3 years from somebody. I'm not saying so much
Yeah.
him. He was looking for
Yeah.
that from someone. Nobody really stepped up in that way. Scotty's arriving now, and it's get your all-star, all-NBA player going,
Yeah. Yeah.
and think how much the court will open up. Gary Trent's game will offense will get better. Brady, I suspect his offense will come as well.
Yeah.
So I hope they can figure this out because
Yeah.
I think there's makings there of a decent team.
Yeah. They've got to use Pascal more or better than just a 3-point shooter. Come on, Darko. Got to do a better job. But we'll see how it works out. With Precious out, Boucher out of the rotation the last few games. However, we did see Otto Porter. We got an Otto Porter signing. We've been crying, "Where's Otto? Where's Otto?" Made a big three in the Spurs game. Looked very confident making it. Was out there playing good defense. A calming influence in the lineup. I was happy to see him close out the game. He looked healthy. Would you say he's a fixture in the closing lineup going forward?
I'm fine with it if he is.
Hmm.
He does some things out there that are really smart. His help defense is good. He's a calming influence out there. I think not the Spurs game, but the game they played before. Maybe it was against Milwaukee. He was out there. He was calming Malachi down. He's calming these guys down. Hey, slow it down. You don't have to try
Right.
to rush everything right now. Otto's got championship experience. Like, the guy's won a title. I get it. He's hurt a lot. You're just gonna have to put up with that. But his versatility on defense, historically, 40% shooter from three. He's smart. Just knows how to play basketball. And I think this team definitely needs that coming in off the bench. Could I see him closing? Yeah, I could see him closing. Do I suspect it will be all the time? That I'm not so sure about. But if Darko puts him in a closing lineup, you'll have no complaints from me.
Yeah, I mean he's the better option. As much as I love Grady Dick, if you gave me Jalen, Grady, and him as the choices, I'm picking him. And I'm sorry, Precious, but I might pick him over you too.
Yeah.
Certainly not going to have Boucher in the closing lineup. So of those five guys, I think that he might be the best option if you need to get Pirtle out of there. That was my main point.
Yeah, well, think of this closing lineup: Pascal, Scotty, Porter, OG, and then you probably got Schroeder out there.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a pretty good starting lineup
yeah,
or closing lineup. All five of those guys can defend. Four of those guys can really do a lot of switching if they have to. And I think that's something that you can run at the end of the game. If you can't put Pirtle on because of the free throw shooting, or if he's clogging up the lane too much. And oh, by the way, there's shooters out there with Siakam and Scotty at that point. So I think would
yeah.
be a good move to do that.
Yeah, I think Pirtle's going to be in and out based on matchups. That's how it's going to be. I don't, we saw that against San Antonio, and that's going to continue, I believe, throughout the season.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, Coach. I tried to be positive, but there's nothing positive about this next subject. From last October, I called this out. I was hoping it would get better, but it's gotten worse. It cost us a playoff spot, and early this season, it's probably cost us a few games. We haven't gotten to the line that much, but when we have, we are the 29th ranked team in the NBA in free throw shooting at 70%. I don't know if Darko's making him shoot the ball very much during his passing clinics, but when you have three guys shooting 40% or worse, that's a problem. Gary Trent is shooting 40% from the free throw line. Jakob is at 46%, and OG's at 44% from the free throw line. And that's not even counting the guys that are at low 70s. Coach, what is going on with the free throw shooting? And can anything be done about this? Because DeMar's daughter's not, long gone.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think the makeup of this team, long rangey wing players, and then you have Pirtle in there. Like there's a lot of big players on this team, and a lot of the guards traditionally are not getting to the rim as much. So Pirtle historically is like a 60% free throw shooter. I expect he's going to be bad. I was on Basketball Rewind not too yesterday, and I said the goal for high school, college, and NBA should be 80% free throw shooting. That gets you in the top 10 free throw shooting. That needs to be the goal for this team. Uh, if people think that we're going to shoot this well from three for the season, um, I wouldn't bet on it. We have a team actually, when they're going to the hoop, they can get to the foul line. There's your 3 points if you convert the shot to begin with. So we have to become a better free throw shooting team because I've watched us lose games because of not just the Bulls game last year,
Yeah.
but even some of the games this year down the stretch. Remember the Bulls we played a couple of weeks ago? Pascal
Yep.
missed some free throws down the stretch.
Yep.
OG has a higher 3 point percentage than his free throw percentage right now.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I saw
It's
that.
unbelievable.
Wow.
It's same with Gary Trent. Excuse me. The only guy that has a little bit of an excuse is Pirtle. Nobody else, I'm sorry, should have an excuse to shoot
Yeah.
under 75%.
Yeah.
in
That's
my
a big
opinion.
problem because, people complain about us not getting the whistle and they have a right to complain. But when you do get it, if you're not making those free throws, then you have nothing to complain about. And Pascal and Scotty, that's going to be a big part of the game. If you expect Scotty to continue to shoot 42% from three, you're fooling yourself. And Pascal, I think that's how he can get his game back. He's got to get to the line and get some foul shots. He's got to draw some contact. I know he tried against San Antonio, but the refs were not giving him the whistle at all. He was kind of driving into double teams, and they weren't giving him the whistle. But when you get to the line, you got to hit your shots, or you're going to have overtimes and close losses all year long. And that's got to get fixed in a hurry.
You just mentioned something key there. He was trying to drive into double teams. When guys are struggling, they
They
try to
force it.
do, they force it. They try to do too much. And that's what he's doing right now. That's why he's not getting those calls. And truthfully, if I was a ref, I wouldn't call them either. Because if you're just forcing yourself into two guys, why would I call that? That's
Yep.
kind of unorthodox to do. So Darko and the coaching staff have to get some plays for him where he's taking guys one on one, where he's taking guys in the post, where he's getting some mid range looks. Because if this guy gets going and he starts averaging 20, and you got Scotty averaging 23 to 25, and plus Schroeder, like you get the makings of a pretty good team, but
Yeah.
get your best player going.
Yeah. Certainly the bench came alive after being horrific in the first half. We're not going to get too much into the bench. Grady Tick had a quite a quiet week. Didn't really shoot the ball that much. It was out there. He did some good things last game, getting like 4 assists and 3 rebounds. His time will come, but we're not going to get to it. The bench has struggled pretty a lot early in the season, but I'm going to talk too much about them. But if the Raptors are going to win 44 games, Pascal needs to be more involved in the offense. It's as simple as that. You can have Scotty go crazy like this, but you're going to have one of the worst offenses in the league, and you're going to be 3-4. So understand you're going to need to get other guys involved.
Pascal last year averaged 15 drives per game before Pirtle showed up. And then once Pirtle showed up, he averaged 10 drives per game. That's probably because the lane
Wow.
was clogged up. He didn't have a driving lane. In total last year, his average was 13.7 drives per game. This year it's 9.7 drives per game.
Yeah, that's not good
And,
enough.
and and his field goal percentage on those drives this year, this is from a couple of days ago, so I don't know if it's updated or not, but it's at 26% field
Oh,
goal
that's not
percentage.
good. Yeah, it's
Last year, 46.5%.
yeah. He's a player that's playing with low confidence and not being used right. That's a bad combination, guys. I love what I'm seeing from Scotty, but if Pascal is playing like this, the ceiling is not going to be 44 wins. It's going to be Pascal's a bit player, Scotty's an all-star, and the team's struggling. That's what's going to happen. So I know there's a certain people out there that are loving this, but if it doesn't lead to team success, it means nothing. It's just a padded stat player
Oh,
with that's not leading to wins. Simple as that. We've seen lots of those in the NBA. So I don't really care about that. If obviously Scotty's won us a couple of games this year. That's great, but it's not going to be able to be consistent if you only have one player doing all the damage. So keep that in mind. We'll see what happens. They play
yeah,
Dallas, and on Saturday they play. Oh God, can't remember now. They play
Boston.
Dallas Wednesday, and then the Bucks Saturday, and the Bucks are going to want
Boston.
revenge. Or sorry, Boston Saturday. Boston has not lost a game, guys. Um, as far as I know. So, two really tough games. Well, actually, Boston's in OT with Minnesota right now, so hold that thought. Minnesota also hasn't lost the game since they lost to the Raptors in Game 1, and the Dallas is 6-1. So tough times ahead for the Raptors coming up.
That's interesting about Minnesota because last time I checked, they were at the bottom in offensive rating for a while. And maybe they were at the bottom free throw percentage as well. That's interesting.
Yeah, they've only lost to the Hawks and the Raptors to start the year. They've all their other games they blew out. They blew out the Jazz and the Nuggets. The Nuggets was the most impressive win. So um, that was impressive. So there's teams are figuring it out early. Now we have about 4 minutes. We are going to come back because I want to talk a little bit about Wemby, but I'm going to end off this portion of the show with Coach. I wasn't going to ask you this, but what do you think of those absolutely horrendous in tournament courts?
I actually like them for the most part.
Oh God, you like them too. Oh my
I didn't
God.
like. I don't like the Milwaukee one that I saw. I love the
Okay.
Denver one. The Chicago one the other night. The red. It's different. There's something I know Beyond had mentioned this, but when guys hear tournament, it's almost like the play and the atmosphere just changes. Like there's more energy.
True.
There's more excitement, maybe to agree from a fan's perspective. I kind of thought this was a little dumb to begin with because I mean this is there's already a grind of a season per se. I'm like an in-season tournament. Like what do we need this for? We've already
Yeah.
changed the playoff format, which I don't like. I like the old style, 1 through 8, not this 1 through 6, and then you have a play-in. I get it's
Yeah.
for more money and revenue, and they did it
Sure.
the year that Zion just, that the Pelicans were in 10th and Zion was coming. They wanted the money in the bubble. I get it, but
Mm-hmm.
I like the old 1 through 8 way.
Yeah.
Truthfully, and you get your 7 games and stuff, or potentially 7 games. But I'm fascinated by it, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So I'm not the biggest fan of these courts. I tried to watch a game the other day and I could not follow the basketball. I was just like, what's happening here? I can't seem to
Yeah.
find where the basketball is. I get it. It differentiates the game, so it's a tournament game. I guess if I'm 2K, I'm sponsoring this because it looks like 2K courts.
No, that's what it does. Yeah. It's for the
Right?
2K fan out there, I would say.
Yeah. Damian Lillard did an interview after they won a game, and he's like, I have no idea what this tournament is. We just won a game today, so I kind of don't know either. So I might have to try to figure this out as we go along. But I don't get it. But I'm not a fan of the courts, me personally.
Do the wins count for your record, or are they just some
Yes.
for something? Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I
they're
thought,
real regular season games, but certain games have been labeled tournament games. That's all I know.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's an odd concept to have
Yeah.
this in-season tournament. I mean, I just wish like the prizes would be like, oh, if you win, you get like a top 10 draft pick. I think you'd have some competition then. And for
Yeah.
teams that don't have any picks, like to get
Yeah.
just something like that. You give your cash money at the end of the tournament, sure, but
Yeah.
I think maybe some extra incentive if they really want to
Yeah.
promote it. That's just me.
Yes, we shall see how that in-season tournament goes. We will be right back. We were taking a little bit of a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the Amazon that is Wemby. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to the Reach Report. We took a little bit of a break, and now we are going to talk about the giraffe that is Wemby. I've referred to him as an alien playing basketball because if you look at him, he doesn't look like a normal person, and I mean that in the nicest way. He's 7'4" with, I believe, a 7'8" wingspan. He doesn't have to jump to dunk the basketball or to block shots. I did mention he might average 4 blocks a game the way he's going. He's at 2.7 right now in a rookie season. So just imagine how much better he's going to be. He is going to have his struggles. He is going to have a rough time because he's playing on a Spurs team that's young and has a lot of young players, and they were a lottery team for a reason. But I've been very impressed so far. They got blown out today. When teams play back to backs after overtime losses, you're probably going to get blown out the next night, and that's what the Pacers did to them. They scored 150 on them tonight, so they're going to have games like that. But they beat the Suns twice, and Wemby's been impressive in some of his games, and for the most part, he's been good. Today he was 3 of 12, probably tired, but coach Wemby so far is averaging 20.5 points, 8.2 assists, 8.2 rebounds, and only 2 assists, which is surprising. I thought he'd average a few more assists, 1.3 steals and 2.7 blocks on 49% shooting, 31 from three. I don't think you can be any more impressive as a rookie. What do you think, and what do you think he needs to do to get better?
I just think this season in general, him playing 60, 65 games, it's going to be so huge for his development. The Spurs I've noticed in the game against the Raptors per se, they've been trying to protect him a lot inside, meaning there were so many times in that game where he just could have posted up OG. What can OG do about it? He's a foot
Just show him the
shorter than
ball.
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they have him out on the perimeter a lot. Now, I understand if he was in there against Steven Adams. Steven Adams, a physical, big, who, Wemby just doesn't have the strength for that. And I'm not saying so much that he's stronger than OG, but I think you could have posted him up a few more times. And there's not much
Yep,
OG can do. OG played as well as he could on a guy with his skill set. He's basically Kevin Durant, but seven
yep,
foot five.
yep,
You know, in my lifetime, I've seen three prospects come into this league, and you're just like, wow. One is LeBron James, second is Zion Williamson, and the third is this kid. And this
yep.
kid, I have him more on par with LeBron in terms of that most unique prospect. Never seen anybody 7'5" in this league have the handles that he has the fluidity that he has the shooting ability that he has. He's unbelievable. And boy, the Spurs, I think they've done it again with another big. They go from David Robinson to Tim Duncan to this kid.
How lucky can you get?
Luck of the
Um,
Irish or something. I don't know.
yeah, I think the Spurs screwed up when they had that big lead. They had no offense going. They were taking wild threes, and I'm like, why aren't they just giving the ball to Wemby in the post? And then he ended up just taking shots from the outside. Boy, that 3-pointer almost went down, which could have changed the way that overtime went. But
Yeah,
I thought they would go into him because the Raptors had no bigs on the floor. But they didn't do that. And I think you're right. They're trying to protect him from getting bumped. They don't want him to get hurt early in his career. They don't want him bumping with the big boys too much. But the Raptors didn't really have anyone that was big out there, so they didn't really go to him, and that led to the comeback. I think they're really being patient with him and just letting him play his game. But that's pretty good for a guy just with no offense being thrown to him outside of the Suns game where they went to him late and he just exploded for 38 points. They really haven't called anything for him, and he's still doing what he's doing, which is impressive.
it is. I've asked Beyond and stuff like that, and just like, man, is there anyone that you can think of ever come through that this unique like him? He's like Ralph Sampson is probably the only one he wasn't as skilled as this kid,
Right.
or I don't know how if coordinated or fluid as Wemby is, but Wemby, I can't say enough awesome things about him. He's good demeanor, very skilled. You know, I think the Spurs have a chance to be very good for a long time. And now it's just good to be putting pieces around him moving forward. I do think that, oddly enough, Hurdle would have been a good fit next to him, actually. Just someone a bit more taller, physical than Zach Collins. Zach Collins is fine, but at the same time, that's why they're trying to protect him so much by having
Yeah.
him out on the perimeter. Because at 7'5", what can OG do with someone that
He
height? What
tried.
can
He
anybody do?
tried.
He tried. Yeah,
Didn't work
no,
out too well.
sorry, I missed another prospect as well. I want to apologize for that. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, probably the
Yes.
other most unique because he was the best high school player, college player, and for a while he was the best NBA player of all time.
Yeah.
So Kareem, LeBron, Zion, and this kid, they're the four, in my opinion, who are the most unique prospects to ever come into the NBA. I get it. There's Michael Jordan as well. Uh, we all know, well, in my opinion, Jordan is the greatest, but in terms of just coming into the NBA, it's those four guys.
Yeah, Jordan was unique for his time period.
Hmm.
But we're talking about like really weird prospects, and I mean like guys that you just like, who is that? And you look at him and like, how is that? Like, where's this guy come from? That kind of thing. Michael was the number 3 pick in the draft. A lot of people forget he was not the number 1 pick of the draft. I believe it went Hakeem Olajuwon, and Portland, I believe, took
Sam Bowie.
Sam Bowie, and we all know how that worked out. Portland has had a history of making mistakes at the draft. They also passed up on Kevin Durant for Greg Oden, so we'll leave Portland alone. They've had a
Yeah.
rough time.
It's the same
um,
thing. It's the Memphis argument. They took
yeah,
Hashim Thabit. and I think it was OKC took James Harden, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I mean, to this day, Joe Dumars would have a job had he not drafted Darko Milicic over Carmelo Anthony, and he lost his job as a result. It was downhill from there. Um, I will say about Wemby, what I was impressed with watching that game is his movement on defense. Typically, when you have big guys, they just sort of stand still and they get in the way, a la Sean Bradley, who was very tall, skinny, really couldn't move though. I watched him on a possession when the game was close at the end of the game, and his movement to stop Scotty from going inside, from stopping OG from going around him was remarkable. His movement without the basketball on defense, he's not just a guy who's just standing there doing this. He can move with you as well. That blew me away. I'm like, this guy's going to be all defense every year of his career if he's not hurt.
yeah, he's probably going to be an all-star. I don't see why he can't be. I don't see why he can't be rookie of the year. And it's not going to completely shock me, assuming that he plays 65 plus games and he's either at this trajectory or getting better, he could win defensive player of the year. I don't think it's over the realm of possibility that he could, because his numbers and how he impacts the game. I mean, there's nobody like him in the league defensively. He can cover so much ground. Even if you beat him off the dribble, you better go and dunk it. There's none of this layup. That's why I was glad for Scotty yesterday. The play at the end of the game, he he had Wemby one on one, but Scotty pulled back on his dribble behind the 3 point line, and and then Scotty, once Wemby moved closer to him, Scotty just saw the lane and he dunked it. Scotty
Yeah.
takes a layup there. Wemby can come and block that. So my advice to players, they don't need my advice, but dunk it when you're around him. Don't lay it in. He'll block it.
Yes. And then Scotty made a three right after the tie of the game. So Scotty was just refused to let us lose that game, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. He's got this mentality this year that if I can take over and cause us to not lose a game, I'm going to do it. We did see a little bit of it last year, not as much as this year, but he has that mentality now, which is great to see. So I've got nothing but I mean, Scotty has not done a whole lot wrong this year. So outside of a couple of really bad first halves where I mean the Raptors couldn't score if their life depended on it. Um, they he's been very very good in every game. I can't say enough. It's been 7 games. The season is young, but him and Schroeder have been unbelievable. Dennis Schroeder, I can't think of a signing in Raptors history that's been better. I can't think of one.
I can't think of one either. And some of the people on our spaces as well. I think it was, I'll say a shout out to him, to Manib. He was saying how this is probably Masai's best free agent signing. I 100% agree. I can't think of anyone else. There was Hito Turkoglu. We saw how that turned out. That was bad. Uh, Biombo was a good signing. I got to give Masai credit on
Yes.
that. He did a lot for the team that year, coming in off the bench and playing a ton of minutes in the playoffs that year. Biombo's probably his best one up until now with Schroeder.
Yeah. Biombo was a 1 year, $2 million signing. And he was great off the bench, especially in the playoffs that year. He was really good off the bench. The bench mob was born that year. I believe that's the year where we came back to beat the Pacers after being down 3 games to 1. I think that was that year. And then we played Miami, I believe, in the second round. Um, but Biombo cashed in after that, thanks to Orlando. But we got our
We
money's
did.
worth.
Oh,
So
absolutely. But yeah, no, you're right. I know there's been some talk about all what Dennis Schroeder's getting in the offense. I would be more upset if he wasn't taking advantage of it. Like if the numbers were really bad, he was taking these horrendous shots. I really don't see that from him. Even the shot at the end of the game against San Antonio, when him and Scotty had the little pick and roll. Scotty, he gave it to him. Schroeder was wide open. I would want him to take that shot. I just was it rimmed out, but luckily we got the rebound and OG put it back in. But for a mid-level exception player, someone making $13 million versus someone making $40 million in Houston,
Yeah.
Well, that's an easy one for me to answer. Which one I would have?
Yeah, and I'm going to talk to Beyond about this tomorrow because he is as shocked as anyone that Schroeder has become the second option on this team, and he has. You got Scotty and Schroeder averaging 20 assists a game, and that makes it really hard if you're trying to get a Pascal involved because they're having so much success in those two positions. So I get it. It's a difficult problem to solve, but there's no reason why Pascal can't be inside the paint doing something and other than sitting outside waiting for threes. That's OG's job. Let OG sit out there and hit 7 threes a game. Pascal, there's no reason he can't be in the paint. If it means that you have to get Pascal Jakob out of there to get Pascal's game going early, do it. Just there's no reason you can't start him there inside in the dunker spot, get him some easy buckets, get his confidence going, and see how that works. I think that's a better option than just leaving Jakob in there.
Well, also I think too, if you're trying to get Pascal going, when Schroeder's off the floor, make him the point guard.
Right.
The guy is so versatile. You could put him in the post, you could put him on the wing, you could play him at guard. I mean, that's one way where he can probably get going. And then you can run some screen and roll action with him because he can either take you to the hoop or he has a good pull up game from the mid range.
Yeah.
So I think there are ways for him to get going. And I do think in the long run, get him out of the corner.
Yes. Please, please. And please listen, this is not the Malachi Flynn show and it's not the Malachi Flynn hate show, but I'm sorry. I'd rather have Siakam there than giving Flynn 20 minutes. That's just me.
We'll see. We'll see how this works out.
So Dallas and Boston, we only have 2 games this week. Lots of time to chit chat about this team. But I'd like to thank Coach for coming on. That's our show for this week. I'm going to have Beyond the Locker Room tomorrow, who I'm sure is going to bring the heat because I know he's going to want to talk about all three of these topics. He's going to have a lot to say about his thoughts. They'll probably be different than mine and Coach's, and I look forward to that. But I'd like to thank Coach for coming on. He's always a very special guest to have on the show. I really need to talk about this week's report, and it was given to me by the coach, Tim Roache. So thank you, Coach, for coming on. I'm the mouth of North Angeles. That is Tim Roache. We will both see you next time on the Reese Report. Thank you for joining.